So I can tell you where it's all gone wrong, and this isn't attacking anyone. I'm just being honest. Is that if you're, and for the atheists, they're only half of their brain works. So this doesn't, it doesn't apply to them. But for the people that love America and our freedom and our Constitution, it's contingent on the people because if most people in America are some form of Christian. So God raises up the leaders, the kings, the presidents, whatever you want to call them. He raises them up based on the people. So if the people are going to stay in a religion like Catholicism, which Catholicism is about monarchs, it is, I didn't know that. I'll explain in a minute. Then and the majority of the people are converting to Catholic, like J.D. Vance, Candace Owens, all to help the monarch communist system. It's true. Then the majority of the people are showing the biblical God that, okay, so you don't even want to stand in the right church, so you're going to have to suffer the consequences. This is what happens. So, and this is what happened to Ireland. So you'd think they'd get a clue, but I don't think people realize the two are connected. We play a responsibility to be in the right churches. But I think there's many people in the Catholic Church that know they're about monarchy and communism, and they just play like, oh no, we're about freedom, and we're standing behind this false religion that abuses children and worships idols. And okay, so and they've heard this for years, never want to change their ways. And that's the reason it's so it's the church, it's the state-run religion in America. That's the one you hear about the most because it's the false one. So yeah, Ireland had suffered this, and I don't think even they realized that it's a direct result because you wanted to say no, we want the Catholic religion. So then what ended up happening in 1540? Well, tensions had begun to mount because the Lord Deputy of Ireland angered the Catholics by enforcing new taxes while denying them full rights as subjects. So, and they probably don't relate the fact that had they maybe followed the Scots, and not that the Scots were any better off, but they at least were understanding that they did not want the king to be God. So, meanwhile, back in Scotland, members of the church worked in secret to train young men for the priesthood, as it was unsafe to advertise the fact that young men were being trained for the Roman Catholic priesthood in Protestant Scotland. Yep. In 1829, the college moved again thanks to John Menzies of Pitfoddles, a wealthy Catholic landowner with no surviving family. He donated his mansion at Blair's near Aberdeen, along with a 100-acre estate, to the Catholic Church. St. Mary's College at Blair's remained the center for Catholic education until it closed in 1986. For the majority of Scottish royalists, Presbyterianism was incompatible with an absolute monarchy because it limited the king's power to appoint bishops and maintain control of the church. On March 4th, 1878, Pope Leo XIII reestablished the Scottish hierarchy of bishops. This meant that Scotland was officially no longer classified as a missionary country, but administered by its own system of bishops. Were the Puritans and Protestants the same? Like the Pilgrims, the Puritans were English Protestants who believed that the reforms of the Church of England did not go far enough. In their view, the liturgy was still too Catholic. Yeah, they're not going to change their spot because they're about a monarchy. The story of Catholicism in Scotland is one of survival. Yet, after the Reformation of 1560, the Catholic Church nearly died out in Scotland. That would have been the best thing. It would have saved no wars, all of this stuff, because God, literally, you have free, God expects the people to know you, beware of who you surround yourself with. Roman Catholicism was outlawed with the Reformation Parliament banning Mass and abolishing the authority of the Pope. Yeah, that's what should happen. Because they believed that God is the only hierarchy. Then it went to this glorious revolution. The different paths of the glorious revolution in Scotland and England stemmed from political and religious differences between two kingdoms. Yeah, so this all happens because, honestly, when people want to hold up false churches and say that they're Christian, then you can expect to lose more freedoms. Because if you're God does raise up the kings and the presidents. The church, I already said that, the church worked in secret. So here's why the Catholic Church is a monarch. The great Catholic monarch and the angelic shepherd. So that's why all of our politicians are Catholic. That's why you see people when they decide, oh, I'm going to become a Christian, I'm going to go become Catholic. No, they're just really up to something. They don't want America to truly be free. There's so many people that don't. But let me tell you what this book is about. For many centuries, from the early years of the church to the present time, various saints, blesseds, and other holy persons have spoken of two figures in the future of the church, the great Catholic monarch and the angelic shepherd. These two holy persons assist the church and the world during the first part of the tribulation. The angelic shepherd guides the church from the time of a great ecumenical council through many spiritual and temporal difficulties. The great Catholic monarch fights a terrible war, World War IV, to free Europe and other nations that were conquered and occupied during World War III. After the first part of the tribulation, these two leaders guide the church and the world during a time of peace, holiness, and rebuilding. All this has been prophesied for many centuries. I know I wouldn't say it's prophesied. The Bible, too, contains implicit references in several different books and passages to these same two persons. And now, in my theological opinion, these two figures have arrived. They are in the world today. This book was written in 2013. This book examines many different prophecies about the great Catholic monarch and the angelic shepherd or angelic pastor in private revelation and sacred scripture, and proposes the identity of these two figures. So literally, this is why I say that in Revelations it talks where God says, come out of her, my children. God's talking about the Catholic Church. It's a false church. It's not about America's Constitution. It's the reason it's the state-run religion, pretty much. It is the reason it gets away with what it gets away with, because it's not about freedom. It's about helping to bring in a sick system. The popes are no good. Maybe they've been led astray, if you want to say, but they should have known. It's almost like none of them knew the Bible, because why did they let all of their hierarchies dress the way they do? Especially when Jesus mocked it. That stuff. I mean, everything they do is really mocking Jesus. So, but this is who they've always been. So that's what happens if you're going to have the majority of the people in your country that are going to be Catholic. Then don't expect to be free of taxes, or expect to have more tyranny, because the Catholic Church is about a monarchy, the papal monarchy. That's what it's always been about. So I'm not trying to go after Catholics. So, it's this whole sensitivity thing. Oh, you're going after my church. Well, if you want freedom, and again, I would say that many of the Catholics in that religion, because, to be able to stay in it and ignore the child abuse, like one of the people that kept going after me last week on my YouTube comment section was trying to say, you don't destroy the whole church because of some priest. Well, it's like 90% of them that have abused children. Like, how long do you keep wanting to ignore the fruits it produces? How many more people? It's a complete irresponsibility. It's totally irresponsible, in my opinion, as a Christian, to stand by and keep holding up a church that didn't just one or two times here and there, has a repeated track record. It's almost like the monarchy of Rome wants to put pedophiles in, because then it's the best way for them to get away with their abuse to children, and parents will trust them.